For donations, I ask that you donate $1 per video. Thank you. Aoki, his katana unsheathed, was the first to arrive at the scene of the crime that had just occurred. There were 2 men slain and 1 woman weeping over their corpses. They appeared to be her husband and young adult son, yet the culprits eluded capture and were long gone. Aoki sheathed his blade, noticing tracks leading to the forest. They'd appeared to have stolen money. They went into the forest, Aoki said to Aogi, who had just caught up. Eric and Jonathan followed quickly behind them. Woman, Aoki called, you wanted us to seek justice for you. Please, she wept, please kill them. Aoki nodded. We shall chase them, Aogi said. Come, let's grab our boots and horses. Each of them ran to their horses after lacing their boots from the inn and running to the horses' stalls. They were soon chasing the intruders who were on foot, following the trail into the dense jungle forest. It was not long before they spotted them, 2 men sitting on rocks, counting coin by a pool of water. Aoki and Aogi leapt from their horses and tied them to trees, having left the foreigners behind in Shorna. Let's go around, Aogi said to Aoki. Aoki simply nodded, quiet as usual. It was but moments before they were behind the men, who they grabbed hold of and stabbed from behind with their long knives. Aoki grabbed hold of the coin, which had spilled onto the ground alongside the men's blood, and placed the coins back into the pouch they had been in. That won't do much condolence, Aogi said to Aoki, but at least she won't go hungry. I think they're a good community, Aoki said. They'll take care of her. They went back to their horses, untied them, and leapt onto their backsides, riding back to Shorna, which was not far. Upon arrival into town, the woman had silenced herself, and almost the entirety of the townsfolk was gathered around the corpses. 2 men picked them up and took them into a house as Aoki leapt from his horse and gave the reins to a man who was waiting to take them. Aogi did the same with the same man, and they, each of them avoiding the crowd, made their way back to the inn, took off their boots, and waited the woman who would surely visit them that night, perhaps even with their family, they supposed. This was not the first time this sort of thing had happened as of late, as there was a small famine and irresponsible people were becoming somewhat desperate. Still, Aoki and Aogi knew they were importing enough food now that, if the bandits would have waited, they might not have had need to die alongside their victims. Nonetheless, this was the way of things. Aogi said, pointing to the Westerners who approached again, but Aoki was in no mood. Tell them to go back to their rooms. Aogi nodded. We do not wish to speak for now, he said seriously. Eric put up a hand. As you wish, he said. The old man who had ushered them into the inn, but who had neglected to give his name or speak, ushered them to their room. 1 room with 2 beds. Aoki and Aogi unloaded their packs and placed their boots next to the bedside, lying down to go to sleep. It was not long before Aogi was fast asleep, but Aoki remained awake waiting. Surely enough, the woman who had lost her family knocked on and opened their door. Aoki rose to meet her, and Aogi awoke, but simply laid there and watched them. Did you kill them? She asked. Aoki nodded. We did. She hugged him and began to cry. Thank you, she said. Aoki reached into his pocket and pulled out the coin purse to hand to the woman, who took it and put it around her neck. Go, Aoki said. She gave Aoki one last look and then returned to whatever home she now had. He supposed the old man from downstairs had sent her in to see them, or he figured as much, and so he decided to close the door, but before he could, a hand stopped him. Hey, Eric whispered. Aoki opened the door and stared him down. What do you want? He asked, obviously unhappy. The same as earlier, Eric said. Take us with you tomorrow morning. Why should I? Aoki asked, letting the door open and walking over to sit on his bed. Because I'm a skilled warrior, and so is Jonathan. Fine, Aoki said. Do you have horses? Yes, Eric said. Does that mean we can come? Jonathan peeked his head into the room. Aoki nodded. Meet us downstairs tomorrow morning. We'll stay up for the night, Jonathan said, as they both left. Aoki left, leaving Aoki. Jonathan said, and they both left, leaving Aoki alone. Aoki grinned. You've grown soft over the years. Aoki looked at him a moment and then looked away. Shut up. The two, tired from the day, soon went to sleep under a moonlit night. On the next day, they would awaken to return to their journey. Two men added to their party.